Okay, today we're starting off, like I said, with camera in hand. I wanted to give you a profile of the airplane. I also wanted to tell you, yesterday I said I cut the rudder once, and then I said, oh, that looks about right. Well, after doing this, stepping back, I cut another bunch off of it. It looked like that. It just, that's just too much. So I cut her down some more. She'll get another final sanding. Today, I did not do any work on it at all since we last spoke. So today, we're going to try to make up some area. I did try to fit the 50 amp ESC into the nose, and it's not, I don't have the slot quite thick enough. So I'm going to have to grind a little bit of that out today. But we're going to do the push rod, the elevators, and I'm going to mount the tail wheel in the dowel. We'll drill right down through the center of this dowel, and then I'll drill a hole into the fuselage up in this direction and epoxy the tail wheel in. I didn't make the landing gear last night, so I'm going to have to do that today, and I probably should do that first because that should be setting aside to dry, so tomorrow we can bolt them on. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to set the camera down. No sense in showing you how to make a landing gear. I mean, I'll show you a quick clip when I get them laid up, and then I'll come back to the finish of the install of the push rod, laying of the skin, final sanding on the fuselage, mounting of the cheek cowl, and the motor mount. I mean, if I really got after it today, I probably could fly it tomorrow, but I don't think I'm that excited about getting this project done. Of course, the weather is raining and thunder showers again today, so kind of stuck inside building. So I'll see you in a short. Well, I didn't start the landing gear yet. I went ahead and ground the spot open a little bit for the ESC on the bottom and fit the electrics. And while looking at this, I mean, you kind of just got to think about it. I've decided that I'm going to cut a hole right here and fish these wires through the tunnel, up through the hole, so that when I put the motor in, these wires will be inside the cowl when I put the cap on the inboard side. And on the outboard side, I have to add a 1/4 inch to this, and I'm going to have to figure out and hollow this area here so that the battery can sit centered in the fuselage as such. Now, there's not a lot to be taken out of this, but I also have to do that to the motor so that the can spin. But I want it wide enough that it captures the whole nose ring, because I think I'm going to embed a piece of motor mount in the cheek cowl as well, so I'll have 3 attachment points on the nose ring. And this will become more clear as we go. Here's the nose ring here, and I'll turn it this way. If you look, the distance from here to here is more than a 1/2 inch because this is a 2-inch spinner. So, it looks like about, no, it's about a 1/4 inch. So I'll have a motor mount screwed into this via these small screws. Let me zoom in here. There's some small screws in that. Oh, where are we going here? There we go. If you look, they're sticking out right there. They get screwed in to the motor mount via such. And there's enough room for a 3rd one on the outboard side. We'll go ahead and bury the piece of motor mount into this and attach it to the motor mount on that. So that'll be a good solid nose, and I'll go ahead and wrap some 3/4 ounce glass cloth over that and Z-epoxy it. Now this whole fuselage is going to be the Z-epoxy finish. That's the quick finish method that I know how to do. Spread the Z-epoxy on, take it all off, knock it down with 220, spray it with the DC 540 primer, and you're good to go. I mean, you could finish it in one day. It's no big deal. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I have a little hole saw, and it's just like a doorknob saw. And it's made for installing backup lights into bumpers. I'm sure a machine shop sells them. It's a 3/4 inch hole saw, and we're going to go ahead and drill a hole to fish the wires through. And that'll be a kind of a slick install. I kind of like having stuff nobody else has done or had. So this whole airplane is built on the TLAR method. You know, it's just an experiment. If it doesn't work, who cares? But I'm sure it will. So I'm going to pick a spot here. Let me dump the battery out of this. Pick a spot here, and we're going to drill a hole. Plywood's some tough stuff. Take the Dremel . Okay, we got that done. Now the wires for the ESC will fish up. Let's see, this is the inboard side. The battery plugs into the back spot, and the wires will fish through here to connect to the motor. Those get plugged into the motor. I'll have to cut those off, put the bullet end connectors on them. Let me see here, where what did I do with the motor? Huh, disappeared. I don't want to fit everything up before I glue anything to make sure that it's all going to work. Well, I'm going to dig for the motor. I'll cut the camera. Be back in a couple of minutes when I find the motor. No need to waste tape. Be back in a minute. Okay, I found the motor. I got the hole cut. I got the ESC down in the bottom. You'll see that we have the wires are kind of long here. When I install this, I'll cut these back and put the bullets on it so that it's short, and they'll plug in right there. And of course, when the cheek cowl goes on, all these wires will be hidden. And I'm not sure whether you have to have an arming device or whatever on a profile, because you can just disconnect the battery. But it could possibly get one of my arms that switches too. I'll have to think about where to mount that. This is basically my layout, and I've got quite a ways I can slide the battery. So it looks like going to be a pretty clean install, and it should all be hidden inside the cheek cowls. So I'm going to shut the camera off, mark this, grind it. We're going to have to cut this motor mount into that special shape that I showed you so that it can be embedded into this and wrap around the motor, and we're going to put another screw in it, and then I'll go ahead and glue the nose ring on. So that'll lock the nose ring in 3 places, up, down, and sideways. So I see no I see no way that motor's coming out of there unless a catastrophic failure happens. But I like that. I like the looks of that setup. It looks like it's going to be decent. Here again, this is my first electric profile. I really don't know what I'm doing as far as the layout of the electrics go. It looks like I got quite a bit of air intake going down through the ESC. I probably can cut a hole up through here as well to ventilate the battery. But these batteries really don't get all that hot. At least mine don't. Neither do the ESCs or the motors. I mean, they're running really cool, at least in my other airplanes. So I'm not sure how much cooling is really necessary, because the RC guys take these batteries and they put them inside a cockpit. You can't even see the thing. It's got no air flowing over it. They're fine. The ESC the same way. I think we're just too wrapped up in the IC world, having all them big openings and holes and ventilation through the spinner and all that. I have yet had a motor seize up or what. I'm not running any ventilation through the spinner like the turbulators. But here again, I'm new to electric. I don't know. I've only got probably 200-300 flights on electric airplanes, so I'm by far not the expert on electric. But as far as my scientific guess, I would say it's not a big deal. So I'll cut the video. I'll get a little more done. I'll be back. So see you in a short. Well, I just got back from Lowe's. I was trying to cut this other motor mount, and my bandsaw blade exploded. So I picked up a couple of bandsaw blades, one for scroll work, and I also got another belt for the belt sander, seeing that the carbon fiber gear has kind of wiped out that belt. I'll save that one belt for the carbon gear. So I'm going to use the 6 teeth per inch blade to start with. I also have another one that's 15 teeth per inch. That's for scroll work. It's 1/8 inch wide. So, get this out and get it up, and I'll get that cut open. We gotta go down. At least we'll have a new blade to play with. That thing exploded when it went off. It was unbelievable. Come on, get in there. Get in the bottom guide. There it is. Come on. Well, give me a minute, I'll be back, because this looks like it's gonna be a project, so I'll be back in a second. Okay, it was about 2 or 3 minutes to get that fixed. I had this motor mount marked, I was cutting it. I'll go ahead and cut it again. Boy, it's so nice to have a new blade. It went through like butter. So now I'm going to fit this motor mount into the cheek cowl. We're going to have to sand that off as well. Grind away what, what we don't need. Let's see here. This is the piece here. We can't have this motor sticking in, or this motor mount sticking into the motor, so I'll mark it, I'll put it on the bandsaw, and then I'll sand it. If I can find the pen. Oh boy. Okay, we got that, so we'll mark it. And I want to leave a little bit on the end here so that we have enough for the screw to go in. Yeah, just use a felt tip. I'm tired of pens that don't write. Okay, so I'll cut this up, and then I'll show you what this looks like and how it's going to tag into that. Funny smelling wood. So this is what the motor mount looks like. Zoom in here. You see that? It's got a notch cut in it. That's where the motor is going to run up against the inside of the cheek cowl. And this gets glued into the cheek like this, and then the nose ring will bolt right to the end there. So let's finish sand that with the Dremel. There. You'll notice here on the inboard side of this, I have this mark too. I'm probably going to cut these out because it's going to get capped with a 1/4 inch piece of wood. And that way the battery can slide out. We'll cap it and probably put some 64th ply on there as well to hold the battery from flying out of the 1/4. So now the motor mount is in this area as such, and this will give it 3 attachment points, so let's see if it fits. Come on now. Might take a little bit of sanding to get it to go in there. Nope, there it is. So, I've got too much sticking up there. We're going to have to take some of the end off here. I'm going to take this motor out so I can look in there. We have to take the nose ring off to drill the 3rd hole anyway. Oh yeah, there's a lot I got to take off. Yep, I'm gonna have to cut that way back. I'll be gluing this top piece on here in a minute. Well, looks like I'm going to have to sand it all off there. Well, I ended up sanding the tang off the end of it, but that's alright. We'll still get a screw in it. And of course epoxy, so. epoxy to the doubler. So that's a good thing. Could have been up just a little bit, but that's all right. We'll put the screw right there. It's just a little bit down. So we want to go right there, and we're going to get the other screw in there. I'm also going to add a piece of 1/2 inch to the top of this outside cheek cal because it comes down and then levels off into a shelf, and I just want it to go right around. So I need to find a piece of 1/2 inch. That's right here. We can glue to that. That'll be there. We'll mark it. And cut it. Here, I have to angle that piece, so let's glue that on, and we'll glue in that motor mount. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut those holes. So I'm going to turn the camera off because my jigsaw, or my scroll saw is behind the camera and I don't want to remove it, so I'll be back in just a second. Okay, here's what we got. I just rough cut these pieces out. I'm not going to worry about the shape of them till I kind of tack this on here, and we'll sand this to the exact opening as this. But to explain what I've done is I've cut the landing gear spot, I've cut the battery opening, the ESC opening, and the slot for the third motor mount, which is this piece right here. And that slides in there, and that gets epoxied in there, and this will get epoxied to the outboard side, and then a 1/4 inch cap will go on that. And then it'll be all sanded to shape. The battery will fit in and be held from going through with the 1/4 inch. We'll probably Z-epoxy the inside of that. And the battery, I mean, that gives an 1 1/4 inch for the battery to sit on. So that's a good thing. And that's centered up right there, and it's almost flush, so when I put the cap on here, I don't need but a small cap to hold all this together. I'll get a couple of magnets, the rare earth magnets, to stick on it. It has nowhere to go, so I'm not too worried about it. I'll put a stop in it as soon as I figure out whether I need the battery back or forward. I'll put a stop in it so the battery can't move back and forth. Until then, I'll just put some foam rubber in there to see where the balance point needs to be. And once I figure that out, then, like I say, I'll put a stop in it so the battery doesn't move back and forth. And the cap will hold it from coming out this way, and centrifugal force will hold it up against the cheek cal on the outboard side. So that's good. The motor will fit. Fits well. Just trying to figure all this stuff out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the video. I'm going to make the 1/4 inch cap. I'll probably go ahead and epoxy this together, get this hole drilled. We got to take out the, for one last time, I've already marked it. Got to take the nose ring off one last time so I can drill a hole for that third motor mount and get a little screw in there to hold that, and I'll epoxy that on. I'm pretty happy with this setup. I think it should be just fine. I haven't looked at a whole lot of electric profiles. You know, there's a million ways to do things. Chris Rigotti's got one I looked at. Of course, Tom Morris has his that I looked at. When I get this epoxy together, I'll come back with camera in hand, show you what I got going on. So, give me about half an hour, 45 minutes, and I'll be back. Okay, here's what I've done in the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe. I made up a outer piece for the cheek cowl, just roughed it in. I didn't want to waste a new piece of wood, so I just went in the scrap pile and I made this out of 3 pieces, 1/4 inch, and that's going to be glued to this. I also glued in the maple motor mount that the nose ring will screw in. So when I come back, I'm going to mix up the epoxy and epoxy this on as such. Let's see how the battery fits in there. That fits on like that. We're also going to fill any of the gaps that I have between the fuselage mating. I don't want any gaps. So this goes in like that. Oh, that's nice. That's going to be real good. So I won't have to have a huge cheek cowl out here. It doesn't stick out but 1/8 of an inch, the battery, and I know that the ESC won't stick out because it slides way in there. So this is a good setup. So give me a few minutes. I'm gonna epoxy this together. I'll come back. We'll put the nose ring on, and we'll go on to the next step, which is the. I guess we can do the push rods and the controls, because I would like to get it pretty close today. I don't know. I didn't work that much on it today. Probably, I don't know, maybe an hour between going to the store for the bandsaw blades and some of the stuff I got to do around the house. But we're getting closer. I don't think I'm going to make it to Brodax with this, but that's all right. We'll have a profile to fly this season. I don't know what I'm going to do about this lump that we got here. I think I'm going to take the drum sander and sand it off. Just putty that in. I can't take too much of it off because that's what the belt crank's mounted on. So I got to leave some structure there. So maybe we'll get a piece of another cowl here and putty that in. I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it'll be fine. If I don't do anything except for putty over it, oh well. What are we gonna do? Free airplane anyway. So I'll be back in a little bit when I get the epoxy mixed up and get this piece epoxied on. Okay, what I've done is I epoxied the motor mount into it, and I epoxied the cheek cowl on. This is 15-minute epoxy. It's under the clamps. We're going to go ahead and let it dry. No sense in running the tape for 15 minutes, but I wanted to show you where I'm at. I got the epoxy drying on it now. It's clamped up. It's all sanded flush, and when I come back we'll go ahead and set the push rod or work on a push rod, and then glue the elevator stabilizer in and kind of line it up. I want to glue this top piece here on second to last. This will go on, and then the fuselage side. So we're just about rounding the corner for where we have to be there, and then I'll go ahead and sand the whole thing and put the Z-epoxy finish that I do on it, and that's it. Now it's got in the nose here. In the nose here, I have a screw there into the motor mount, a screw there into the motor mount, and a screw there into the motor mount. And the motor mount is embedded in the cheek cowl. So we got 3 pieces of maple motor mount in the nose to keep this motor from going sideways. I also want to come back and fill in, there's a couple little gaps around where I missed the cut on the fuselage, wing cut. And I want to fill those in before I put in the super fill. So when I come back, I'll glue the nose, unscrew this again, glue the nose ring on, epoxy it real good with 15-minute epoxy. Probably coat this inside here too, because we want this to be nice and stout. I don't want that motor coming out of there. I know there's a lot of torque on that. So, I'll be back in a few minutes. Well, this was a short day. I was going to work on it some more, but kind of got sidetracked. Things are just going crazy around here. Anyway, here's where I got today. I got the motor mounted, I got the cheek cowl on and sanded, roughed in. And I'll show you exactly what we got for the motor mount. Oh, that's going to fall on the floor. Sorry about that. Anyway, I'll put the turtle deck back on. I didn't get the push rod in like I wanted to today, but I did get the battery set up. The basic shape of how this is going to go together. Of course, when I get that glued down, I'll sand that off. This is all going to get glass clothed up here. I'll cut the camera here and I'll take the spinner off and you can look inside there. So give me a second. Well, that's what it looks like with the spinner off of it. Nothing really to see. The motor spins freely. Like I said, the ESC wires will come through this hole. Now there's going to be a cheek cowl that'll go on with some magnets to hide the battery, which is right here. The battery will sit in there as such. So I think it's going to be a pretty neat airplane. I don't think it's going to make it to Rodak, but that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and post this short video up today, and hopefully we get some more work done tomorrow after I come back from flying, if the weather permits. The weather, it's been raining and windy and it's just terrible. So I'll go ahead and post this and we'll see you tomorrow. Tight line.